take a look at solving this quadratic equation. Okay, the directions only say solve the equation. I know it's an equation because it has an equal sign. And then I know it's quadratic because it has a square, okay, to the second power. So if it was linear, I would have to work it differently. But this is quadratic, so I'm going to use the steps here, okay, because this is quadratic. Step 1, it must equal 0. All right, does this one equal 0? No, it does not. It equals 20. So I don't want a 20. I want this to be a 0. How do I turn a 20 into a 0? Well, I'm going to have to subtract 20 on both sides of the equal sign. Now, on the left-hand side, let's drop down what we have. I can't combine this with this with this. Those don't combine, so it's just going to be 8x squared plus 36x minus 20. So let's write that down. 8x squared plus 36x minus 20 equals, and what's 20 minus 20? 0. Okay, step 1 is accomplished. I set it equal to 0. And when I do that, I like to put a smiley face in this 0. All right, when it's quadratic, set it equal to 0. Step 2, factor completely. So you have to recall the steps of factoring a polynomial. Step 1 in factoring a polynomial, is it in order? Well, it's to the second power, then to the first power, and then to the power of 0. So yes, this is in order. Good. Step 2, is there a GCF? And in this case, yes, there is. There is a GCF. I'm going to take out the greatest common factor. So I ask myself, what can I divide out of all three of these? Right? Can I divide out an x? Nope. Can I divide out a 2? Yes, I can. Can I divide out a 4? Yeah, 4 goes into 8, 4 goes into 36, and 4 goes into 20. What about an 8? Can I divide an 8 out of all three of these? 8 goes in here. Does 8 go into both of these? No, 8 doesn't go into 20. So 8 is not my greatest common factor. 4 is my greatest common factor. So let's take out a 4. We're going to bring it out in front. And when we divide out a 4, let's write down what's left over. First term, 8x squared. Divide out a 4, and I'll be left with 2x squared. Plus 36x divided by 4. 36 divided by 4, 9. Minus 20 divided by 4 is 5. Drop down your equals 0. Okay, is it factored completely? Well, I took out the GCF, but can I factor this trinomial? Yeah, of course I can. It is AC method. It does not start with a 1. It starts with something other than a 1. Leading coefficient is not 1. So it's AC method. So let's come down here. Let's do it AC method. First, A times C is 2 times 5 is 10. And let's list all the possibilities of 10, all the factors I could multiply to give me 10. 1 and 10, 2 and 5. Does 3 go into 10? No. Does 4 go into 10? No. I'm back to 5. Okay, so one of these pairs is what I'm going to use to split up my middle term. When I go to split up the middle term, it's 9x. Which one of these give me 9x? Yeah, it's going to be 1 and 10. So this is going to be 1x and 10x. Now, this sign tells me that I subtract, right? 1 minus 10, 10 minus 1. I get negative 9 or positive 9. So I need to figure out what my signs are. They're going to be different. To get a positive 9, the 10 has to be positive, and the 1 has to be negative. All right, that gives me 9x. All right, split up my middle term. Now let's drop everything else down. I'll drop down the 2x squared. I'll drop down the 4. I'll drop down the minus 5. I'll drop down the equals and the 0. Okay, AC method. I split up the middle term, and now it's factor by grouping. Factor by grouping is Spider-Man. Spider-Man colors. Red and blue. Let's look at the red group. What's the greatest common factor of the red group? Well, 2x squared and 1x. I can take out an x. I'll be left with 2x minus 1. Drop down the plus. So the greatest common factor out of the blue group is going to be a positive. And what can I divide out of these two? 10x minus 5. Well, 5 goes into both of them. So this will be 2x minus 1. Now, does that make me happy? It makes me very happy. Because this, 2x minus 1, is the same as this. Okay, we made that happy. That happened. So that makes me happy. Okay, I can't do it without that. They have to be the same. Now, let's take that 2x minus 1 and let's bring it on out in front and let's see what we're left with. All right, here's my 4. Here is my 2x minus 1. And when I take out the 2x minus 1, what would I be left with? Well, if I divided it out here and I divided it out here, what would I be left with? X plus 5. Okay, so that's what goes here, x plus 5. All right, drop down the equals, drop down the 0. Now, it is factored completely. Step 2 in solving a quadratic equation is done. Step 3, set every factor equal to 0. All right, let's set them all equal to 0. Here's 1, here's 2, here's 3. Let's set them equal to 0. 4 equals 0. 2x minus 1 equals 0. X plus 5 equals 0. And now, I set them equal to 0. Now the last step is to solve all the linear equations. Let's do it. Does 4 equal 0 over here? No, 4 doesn't equal 0. I can't get any answers from there. I don't even have a variable there, an x. So I don't get any answer there. Let's do this one. 2x minus 1 equals 0. I'm going to get my x by itself. I'm going to add 1 to both sides. All right. These cancel. So 2x equals 0 plus 1 is 1. One more step to get the x by itself. Divide out the 2. And x equals 1 over 2, which is 1/2. That's one of my answers. Let's get our answer here. I want to get this x by itself. What do I need to do? Subtract 5 on both sides. All right, 5 minus 5 is gone, so I drop down my x. X equals 0 minus 5 is negative 5. And that's my answer. X equals negative 5. I have two answers. I have 1/2 and negative 5.